Yes. Okay, welcome everyone once again to our webinar on EU strategic frameworks on culture. Today's agenda include the following topics: new European Bauhaus, EIT, culture and creativity, knowledge and innovation community, and topic and strategic documents, EC documents on culture, for example, new European agenda on culture. The EU actions for culture are based on treaties and are carried out by responsible departments within the European Commission. The Commission department in charge of cultural issues is the Directorate General for Education, Youth, Sport and Culture, that is DG EAC. This department is represented today by our three speakers: Maria Iglesias, Guillermo Di Cola, and Marta Jimenez Pumares. Hello to you. And I believe I can now give the floor to our first speaker, Maria. Please take the floor.
Many thanks, Madalena. Thank you for the presentation. Indeed, I work with Marta and with Guillermo on at DG EAC, that is dealing with education and culture. In particular, Marta and myself, we work at the cultural policy unit. So meaning we are dealing with cultural policies, and in my particular case, I'm dealing, among other things, with the new European Bauhaus, with the cultural dimension of the new European Bauhaus. Maybe before I start, let's try once again if we can share the presentation. And we are having some technical problems, so I will try again. And otherwise, I just send you the presentation to you, Magdalena, and to my colleague Felicie, and maybe one of you can help. I will try once again, and if not possible, I will let you to do the... Can you see my screen now?
Yes.
But I cannot pass the slides. Have you received my presentation, Magdalena? Could you please try to share it with the colleagues? Huh?
Yes, just give me a second. I believe it needs to be done by Paulina because I don't have this possibility.
Can you send me the presentation? Can you send the presentation to Paulina, maybe? Paulina?
Yes, I have sent it.
Yes,
Maria,
yes.
Can you just start from the general issues,
Yes.
and we will try to make the presentation work in the meantime.
Very good. I think we have it there, right?
Yes.
Well, thank you. First, thank you very much for inviting us to this meeting. And I'm really sorry we needed to change the timetable, the schedule, let's say, because of other urgent commitments we need to go for afterwards. But in any case, let's start. And so from my side, I will present the new European Bauhaus, and my idea is to give you some information, some hints also for where you can find more information, and of course refer also to the funding opportunities that you may be interested in. As you know, the European Bauhaus is a very much ambitious initiative that brings a social and cultural dimension to the European Green Deal. It was created in 2000, or it was announced in 2020 by the President of the Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, and in early in 2021, from January to June, we open a process of co-design. I think this is a very important thing that you need to understand, and you need to know when dealing with the European Bauhaus, is that the concept of the European Bauhaus has been developed with the contributions of thousands of participants to this call for the co-design. And the result of this co-design process was summarized or was published in a communication that is the communication of the European Bauhaus that was published in September 2021, where you can find more detailed information about the principles, the values, the thematic axis in which the European Bauhaus works, as well as the many funding opportunities that we have had for the last 2 years. As you can you pass the next slide, please? Very good. So
you see it? Yes, it's all fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very good. So as probably most of you know, the new European Bauhaus is built around 3 key values: sustainability, inclusion, and beauty. The NEP is about transforming our living environment. It's about transforming our way of life, our products, to make them more sustainable, more affordable, and more beautiful. The original Bauhaus, as you know, was active in the 20s and 30s, and was this school. What they did was to combine the worlds of art, craft, and technology to create a new form of designs that were more relevant to the world of that time. And this is exactly what we want to do with the European Bauhaus. We want to build on this to create a network of design centers, a new design and innovation ecosystem that addresses the challenges that our society faces today. That is climate change, for example, the circular economy, and so. Next slide, please. With the European Bauhaus, we aim at having impact at different levels. We aim, for example, at having impact on the places on the ground, and this very much refers to the built environment. For example, architecture and the built environment, the type of buildings we would like to have around us is a very key, let's say, level of impact in our initiative. Then, of course, the second level of impact is the enabling environment for innovation. We really think that, for example, if we talk about the arts, that combining arts and crafts with technological innovation can bring to new social innovation that will make our products and our services much more sustainable. And of course, we are also talking about a change of behaviors and lifestyles. And again, in the field of, the role of artists and cultural professionals here is very, very key in order to convey new meanings and new ways of life. Next slide, please. And how we do all this. So with the European Bauhaus, we run a series of activities that help us to not only to fund projects, as we will see in a minute, but also to disseminate and to engage more with the society in order to put forward these common goals. Of course, what we do is that we finance projects, we test, we do a lot of testing, we do the demonstration, and just to give you an idea, for example, in the period 2021, 2022, we had more than 85 million euros dedicated to European Bauhaus projects. For the future, for this year, 2023 and 2024, we'll have more than 100 million euros in the Horizon Europe program for calls that are dedicated to the European Bauhaus. But we will have even more than that. Why? Because what we also have done is that we have integrated the NEP objectives in other EU programs. It means that, for example, if you look at Erasmus+, or if you look at Creative Europe, there is no money for the Bauhaus there, but there are some calls that refer to the same priorities or to similar priorities than those of the European Bauhaus. For example, sustainability. The Green Deal is something that very much permeates our programs. And of course, you may have, for example, Creative Europe projects that are very much in line with the European Bauhaus values and principles. The same for the structural funds. Most of the member states, if not all have included a reference and a strong reference to the European Bauhaus in the operational arrangements. What we also do, and we will see that in a minute, is that we recognize bottom-up initiatives by offering prizes. And we will see that in a minute, as just said, but as you know, we have the European Bauhaus Prize whose award ceremony that is organized next Thursday. And there are amazing examples there of people that is already working on the ground, very much in line with our values and principles. And of course, we invest a lot on communication tools and other engagement activities. We had last year, you may have heard about that, the European Bauhaus Festival, where we had more than 200,000 people that engaged with the festival, either online or offline, across the whole Europe. We'll have another new European Bauhaus Festival in 2024, but the date is not public yet. Next slide, please. Yes, an important component of the European Bauhaus is, of course, the NEP community. The European Bauhaus community is underpinning the initiative. We have now more than 600 partners in the community, many of them coming from the arts, culture, and creative sectors. The community also consists of the members of the high-level roundtable. Probably you are also familiar with them, some of them coming from your respective countries. And we have, of course, the winners and the finalists of the European Bauhaus prizes that are invited to join the community. And also we have the so-called friends of the European Bauhaus that are more authorities, public authorities, and also businesses that since more or less 1 year ago, they were able to join the community too. So if you belong to one of these categories, I don't know, arts institutions or public authorities or businesses, and you would be interested to join the European Bauhaus community, please don't hesitate to contact us. You have a functional mailbox in the website, and we would be more than happy to provide you more information on how to join this great and active group of people. Next slide, please. The new European Bauhaus dashboard, also another interesting tool that you can be interested in. You can be willing to test and to check. In fact, the dashboard is a database with a lot of visualization too that allows you to identify all the relevant projects, national contact points. This is also very important. The national contact points, partners, and so on, related to the new European Bauhaus in your own country. And I have to say that yesterday, when I was preparing the presentation, I checked for the countries of this partnership, and it was amazing to see how many projects are already in place, how many partners you already have, how active your countries are already in relation to this engagement with the NEP. And it's of course a great pleasure for us, and we were very happy to learn, because sometimes it's very difficult for us to know what is going on, to have the whole overview. We have one example here, another there, but yesterday I was really very much impressed by all the links that already exist in relation to your countries and the NEP projects. What else? Next slide, please. Very good. For the NEP prices, yes, the NEP prices is without a doubt one of our most, let's say, most important instrument in order to give visibility to initiatives on the ground. We have had already 2 editions of the prices, one from 2022, 2021, 2022, and now we're having 2023. So what you have in this slide is an example of one of the winners of last year. That is, I think it belonged to the Rising Star category. So this was an idea that was put forward by a young person, and it concerns giving a kind of or their second life, or rethinking how we could use this folk concept that is very much about traditional building, a traditional building, a traditional way of building in Poland, and how we can reuse that in the future. Next slide, please. As I said at the very beginning, this Thursday we have the new the NEP award ceremony. You can follow its web stream, and there you will be impressed also by the more than 60 finalists that have been selected in different categories. I have included some examples there, choosing also because of the countries that they represent. An example from Estonia on the use of public art, also sustainability. Another example again from Poland on the that refers to crafts. But there are many other examples, as you may guess, in this list of 61 finalists, and I will really invite you to follow the ceremony. Next slide, please. Another tool that is interesting, that could be very relevant to you, is the Compass. The Compass is a guidance framework on how to apply the NEP values and principles to a specific project. So in case you are thinking about building your own NEP project, or you are thinking about assessing the projects that you have already in the field, in order to see if they could be considered as NEP or not, and if you could apply for funding, don't hesitate to look at the NEP Compass that can give you a lot of guidance in order to apply more in practice the different values and principles related to the NEP. Next slide, please. We are now in the last part of the presentation that concerns where to get information on funding opportunities and other actions. So what you have there is that the link to the website, where we gather all the information on all the calls that are dedicated to the European Bauhaus, and on all the calls that are, even if they are not dedicated to the Bauhaus, deal with similar priorities. So as you can see there are many different programs that are relevant. Where you can find probably more, let's say, opportunities would be in Horizon Europe or in ERDF, but of course, in the other programs that are mentioned here, you may also find possible calls for European NEP projects. Next slide. Here you have some examples of NEP-related projects that have been selected in the past. I'm sure that you have, or I hope that you have heard about the Bauhaus of the Sea Sails. That is a project that one of the lighthouse demonstrators that have been selected last year. And this one in particular is very much related about how to engage in new kind of relationships with the sea, how we engage with citizens, also with the support of the creative culture and cultural sectors. Another project that I wanted to refer to, just a line on that, is the Palimpsest. Palimpsest is a project that has been funded, that is just kickoff, is being funded by Horizon Europe, and it's on landscapes. We have also many projects that have been selected by several EIT calls, by the Cross-Kick, and many other projects that have been selected under other initiatives. In the second row, what we have is a reference to the European Urban Initiative. This has been a call that closed recently, a very big call with 50 million euros that was open also to call for proposals related to the NEP. And the results will be announced, if I'm not wrong, together with the NEP prizes next Thursday. We also just closed another very interesting call on artistic residencies in the framework of our mobility action, Culture Moves Europe, that among its objectives, it also have one that relates to the European Bauhaus, and so on. What I want to transmit with this is that there are a lot of huge opportunities to engage with the European Bauhaus through different angles in our calls. Last slide, please. And just to finalize now, this about forthcoming opportunities in the website that you could find the link before. You have information on funding opportunities. I wanted just to give an example of one here. The one that I have highlighted in yellow is a call that will be open since October 2023. And that belongs to the cluster 2, the cluster dedicated to cultural and creative industries in Horizon Europe. This call will be approximately of 16 million euro for several projects that are dealing with the European Bauhaus, in particular in relation to the cultural and creative sectors. We are talking there about architecture, but of course also about fashion, also about design, also about cultural heritage, and possible ways to create more innovative solutions for a more sustainable and affordable future. This is one example. Another example I wanted to highlight is a very nice project that will kick off very soon. It concerns peer learning activities on high quality architecture and the built environment. This is, of course, very much related to, let's say, this place's impact on the ground dimension of the European Bauhaus. It's a project that is not conceived as a net project, but that has a lot of synergies with the European Bauhaus, and indeed has been mentioned in the European Bauhaus communication. Well, I think this is all from my side. I know that there was a lot of information, but I hope it was useful. We will send you the slide with the links, and I hope you can find there interesting opportunities. Many thanks.
Thank you very much, Maria, for this very interesting presentation. I don't see any questions in our chat. This is the question to participants. Do you have any questions to Maria? Because I believe Maria will need to leave in a few minutes. I don't see. Maria, so if I may, just a quick question, because you mentioned 660 official partners to New European Bauhaus. And if the question is, if an institution wants to become a partner, what's the procedure? Should this institution contact a national contact point or contact you? Or maybe it's something that is already mentioned in the compass.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for a very good question indeed. In fact, it's not our DG that is managing the applications for partnerships, but you can easily check in the website of the European Bauhaus. What I know is that there is a kind of application form where you have some very basic information to fill in, such as, I don't know, how you could contribute to the European Bauhaus, what kind of activities you have that are already in line with the European Bauhaus principles, what you would like to do if you like to join the Bauhaus, for example, I don't know, running seminars on that topic or supporting projects, whatever. So if you check in the website, you can, of course, get more information. And of course, I would say, so it's always a good idea to get in contact with the national contact point, because they are there to support you, they are there to help. And I think it will be very much welcome also from their side too. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and I hope that after this webinar, the new European Bauhaus will have many new participants. Thank you, Maria. And we're 5 minutes after the schedule, so Guglielmo, if you may now take the floor with your presentation.
Yes, let me share the screen.
Thank you, Magdalena. Thank you, Paulina. There it is. Okay, perfect. So maybe now, thank you very much for having me, and thank you also to my colleagues who actually sit on my floor, but on the other side of the corridor, my colleagues that are following cultural policy. I will say a few words on this new instrument, but also new policy development that is the EAT, culture and creativity. If we can move to the next slide, Paulina, please. So the IT culture and creativity is a new member of the knowledge and innovation community of DIT. You know that DIT is this body that we have in Budapest. It's called the European Institute of Innovation and Technology. This has been set up back in 2008, and the idea is really to create an innovation ecosystem in Europe. And what it does is that it relies on what we call the knowledge triangle. So the business side, the education side, and the research side to find solutions to specific global challenges. From 2008 up until now, the EIT has launched 8 knowledge and innovation communities. We will call them KIC because it's easier. And the 9th one is the IT culture and creativity. This is something that was agreed already a few years ago under a proposal by the European Commission, but agreed by the 2 co-legislators, so the European Parliament and the Council. And we have started with the creation of this KIC last year. Last year, we published a call. The KIC was designated, following a winning proposal by that was called Innovation by Creative Economy. This was done in June of last year. The winning consortia initially had 50 partners from 20 countries. And this year, what we have is that the IT culture and creativity, after being designated, is setting up slowly. We can move to the next slide just so that I give you a few examples. Okay, so why do we call this the startup year? Because following the winning consortia, obviously the knowledge and innovation community, the KIC, is a private entity, so it needs time to draft this legal entity and to also have the operational setup. So what we did at the beginning of the year is that the IT signed what we called a startup grant agreement with the KIC. This was done in February, and with this signature, it received 6 million euros. 6 million euros, as it's mentioned here in the slides, for the following activities, which means to develop its strategy, to set up its legal basis, to set up the co-location centers that you saw were mentioned in the previous slides. So initially, the KIC will have 6 co-location centers throughout Europe, with an HQ based in Germany. And also, as part of their activities this year, they decided to also have first calls of proposals, and I will come to this just in a second. So we can stay with this one. Thank you. So the KIC is right now developing its, I would say, long-term strategy, and for this we're having regular discussions with the KIC, and also the EIT is having regular discussions with the KIC. For the time being, they have identified 5 impact areas on which they would like to work. These, unfortunately, are not in the slides, but I will share them with you because there's absolutely no secret. It's fashion and textiles on one side, architecture on the other, audiovisual as a third one, design the fourth, and cultural heritage. So already with these impact areas, you also see quite naturally the link that there is with the presentation that was done with Maria, with the European Bauhaus, but also the links with the priorities that I think Marta will explain to you later on. So this is why the IT culture and creativity is an interesting tool, because it will, let's say, match what we do with other instruments. But the idea is not to do an overlap, obviously, and this is why you have the second point that you have here, which is the Policy Advisory Board. The Policy Advisory Board is something that was created this year, where we have different commission services that are involved in culture and creativity, and there are many. It's not only us from the Directorate General of Education and Cultures, but there are many others that are involved. And the idea is really to provide a policy input to the KIC so that they're aware of what we do. And we also kind of guide them to avoid have duplications, and at the same time, policy feedback from them, because obviously they are on the ground and they also can complement some of the initiatives that we may do. We had the first meeting in April, and the idea is to have this regularly. As I said, as I mentioned at the very beginning, I mean, just in this slide at the beginning, the KIC decided to launch some first calls of proposals. They did this in April and they closed in May. They will put aside around 10 million euros for next year for those projects, and the projects will start as of next year. And here, allow me to make a link with the slide that it will come after, is the business plan. This is important because, as I said, the KIC is in its startup phase now, and what they're doing now is they're drafting their business plan and their strategic agenda for the following years. And here we can move to the next one, please, Paulina. So the business plan basically it goes into detail of all the activities that they intend to do for the next 2 years. And currently the KIC is drafting this, and they will submit it to the EIT in summer or in September, and then the governing board of the EIT will have a dedicated meeting in December and November, yes, with a hearing with the KIC to approve this business plan, which means, and then with obviously an allocation of funding, quite substantial for the next 2 years, so that the KIC can really become operational as of January 2024. That doesn't mean that the KIC has not been active, and I'm sure that if you're aware of it, and I also invite all of you to clearly and quite regularly follow what the IT Culture and Creativity are doing, either through the website or I'm sure they have a linking page, etc. They have been very active. They have been very active in promoting the IT in Culture and Creativity because this is something new. It's also something that is quite complex, if I may say, also quite different compared to the other instruments that we have that exist that support culture and creativity. And they have starting, signing collaborations and cooperations with different entities. And here I just gave you two, because one, of course, is of more political nature, because it's something that was done in the context of the Swedish presidency, and it was a memorandum of understanding with the Research Institute of Sweden, but they also signed a memorandum of understanding with the city of Umeå, who will join one of their flagship initiatives called the Policy Club. And another one is a bit more concrete, and I wanted to give you this as an example to show you what the IT Culture and Creativity will do, is that they decided to have a collaboration with other KICs, because obviously culture and creativity is something that is horizontal and touches upon everything. So here they want to have an innovation agenda on textiles and fashion, and obviously here they signed they kicked off the collaboration with two other KICs, namely the IT Manufacturing and the IT Climate KIC. So if you allow me, Magdalena, I will stop here, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Thank you very much for this presentation. I do not see any questions. So if anyone has a question, please let us know. Okay, so maybe one thing from me, I think it's worth stressing that this KIC, EIT Culture and Creativity, its setup is very important for this for CCSI, for the cultural and creative industry, and this sector is the first of its kind among previous KICs being health, food, climate, and Guillermo, can you tell us how it is important for cultural institutions and individual artists? What can they take from it for this new KIC, like in layman's terms?
Yes. Okay. No, as you said, this is something that is quite new, and I would say quite revolutionary. I think that Everyone knows, obviously, the importance of the sector, both in terms of economic numbers, but also the impact that the sector itself has in other sectors and how they contributed to it. But we also know that this fragmentation, if it can be a positive thing, but it's also, I would say, one of the how should I put this? Not downsides, but I mean, one of the weaknesses maybe that the sector has. And this is what precisely the KIC aims to tackle. The KIC is supposed to create an innovation ecosystem in the EU. It's every single KIC is supposed to do this. So basically what it does is that it really connects the dots between all the different initiatives and all the different players. As I said at the beginning, an innovation ecosystem has to be done based on the knowledge triangle. So here we see that we will have cooperation that will come between research institutes, between higher education institutions, and between the businesses. And I think that this is very important. You may know that now the CEO has been appointed recently. His name is Bernd Fezel. He's someone that has been working in the sector all his life in different positions.
Yes.
So he also has an understanding that is he has a big overview of the sector. One of the things I mentioned at the beginning is also that this is a community that is set to grow. So when the winning consortium applied, they applied based with 50 partners. But now that they're setting up the KIC, its legal entity, so far I don't have the latest numbers, but I think that they're only at 29 because they're starting all over again. Which means that one key message that I pass to you and all the people is obviously that this is set to grow. I didn't say this at the beginning, but the KIC will receive funding from the EU for the next 15 years. And the ultimate aim is that this becomes something self-sustainable, also financially. But it also means that the community is set to grow. Other KICs, for instance, that are phasing out, I would say, that were the first wave KICs and will leave the KIC community in next year or 2 years. Some of them have more than 3,000 partners. So I really invite all of you to be involved. I put the link there. As they're setting up right now, they're also hiring a lot of people because they will need to have presence on the ground with the 6 collocation centers that they have determined now. And I think that this is also a good hook for everyone to pass through them to get more information and to see how to be involved. As I said, and I will finish here, this is still their startup year, which means that everyone has still 6 more months, I would say, to be right from the beginning in contact with them and see how they can help. But obviously, this will not stop in 6 months. It will continue of the past 15 years. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I think it's a very important key message. And I also think that another one would be to have an eye open for the upcoming calls that should be announced earlier next year, as I understand. Thank you very much. And I think we may now move to Marta's presentation. Marta, can you please?
Thank you very much. Thank you to my colleagues for the very rich presentations, but allow me to take a step back and go to the basics of what we do for cultural policy at European Union level. So we can go.
Can you just tell me, please, if you see my screen and everything is correct?
It's perfect. Thank you so much.
No problem. Thank you.
We can go to the next slide, please. So let's start by the beginning. As I was saying, what are our competences in culture? We work under the subsidiarity principle. This means that culture is a competence of the member states. They decide their policies for the cultural sector and industries, and our actions are more oriented into supporting, coordinating, and supplementing the member states' actions. One of the aims is the conservation of the European cultural heritage, which is common to all of us. Also, we promote policy cooperation between the member states and the cultural stakeholders, all the authorities, institutions, key players. We do not harmonize laws and regulations. This is only national competence. And we try to develop relevant cultural policies and programs because there are common challenges in the member states. The digital technologies, the changing models of governance, the new business models, etc. There's many reasons to try to find common solutions to very similar challenges. So within these limitations, if we go to the next slide, please. Within these limitations, we still manage to do a lot. And we do a lot because we mainstream culture in all policies across the European Union. So we deal with, for example, culture and well-being, health, mental health, how the culture participation improves our daily lives. We deal with intellectual property and the fair remuneration of the artists. We try to also deal with innovation, as we have seen with the EIT KIC and also with the European Bauhaus. We are working a lot in improving the working conditions of the artists and the professionals in the sector. And we we survey that we maintain the freedom of artistic creation and expression. Cultural heritage is maybe one of the most renowned topics and themes that we deal with, because we will see later of the special European Year on Cultural Heritage that we had 5 years ago. If we talk in the next slide, please, a little bit about what is the framework for our action, we need to talk about the new European Agenda for Culture, which was implemented in May 18. The objectives of the new European Agenda for Culture, which mark our work, are trying to, as we were saying, mainstreaming the culture, because it is clear that culture has power to improve our societies, for social cohesion, for the well-being. We believe on that power, implicit power of the culture. But also culture is an economic sector. It has a weight in our economies, and we want also to show it and do whatever we can to make it grow. Also very important for the work we do are the international cultural relations, which is a priority throughout all our work programs. Sorry. So how do we do, what tools do we have to try to do what the new European Agenda for Culture marks as our priorities and objectives? We have two very nice, let's say, ways of working with the sectors. One, it's at member state level, and it's called the Open Method of Coordination, the OMC. I will tell you a little bit more about OMCs later on, but basically is getting together the experts in a given theme or priority from the member states, and they work on recommendations that they send us for us to to propose as priorities to the Council and to the different member states to decide. But we don't talk only to the member states and the authorities. We are very keen on what we call the voices of culture, which is a structured dialogue that we maintain with the civil society, also according to the themes that are the priorities in our work plan for culture. So in the next slide, what is that work plan for culture? Every 4 years, the member states establishes the priorities of our work. The plan that we had until last year, which is ending still with some little reports and actions, marked 5 priorities that were deployed into 18 topics that were our actions, concrete actions for these 4 years. We can see sustainability, we can see cohesion, the support of artists, all the themes that I was advancing in the beginning. Also gender equality, and again the international cultural relations. These were our priorities until last year and remain our priorities. We also have cross-sectorial issues that are urgently calling us for action, which is the digitization of the culture, not only cultural heritage, but the digital services, the online discoverability of European content, etc. And the second one is the cultural statistics. We work with Eurostat currently in the updating the framework for cultural statistics with task force with the member states, trying to not only enlarge what we count now as culture, but also we will try from now to 2025 to also include the creative aspects and domains of our sector. So again here, as you can see below, this open method of coordination tool, the OMC groups. As an example, we had 7 in the past work plan for culture on the topics you can see below, but we also had council presidency conferences, peer learning projects and initiatives, studies, workshops, expert groups, council conclusions, etc. If we go to the next slide, we can appreciate that the new work plan for culture, which was adopted end of last year, has now 4 priorities that develop through 21 specific actions. But the names might change a little bit, but the priorities are still there. We still are focusing on artists and cultural professionals, empowering the sector, the culture for the people. So participation for us is not only, as we were saying before, important for mental health or well-being. Participation builds our democracies. We should be careful in these times to have more and more European citizens participating in culture as a way to recognize ourselves as part of the same community we want to maintain. Culture for the planet, sustainability, safeguarding cultural heritage against disasters, including climate change, the fight against the illicit trafficking of cultural goods. So many actions in these 4 huge priorities. International relations is the 4th priority. It is maintained after every work plan for culture as a very important priority for us. So if we go to the next slide, I have an example of what one of these open method of coordination groups can do for us. I signal this one here because it's one of the latest pertaining to our previous work plan for culture. So a group on strengthening cultural heritage resilience for climate change. So the Commission invites experts from member states and related countries on a specific topic. They produce a report with a whole set of recommendations, best practices, etc. And this report bases the work we do after the group is dissolved, meaning that this can become a peer learning action, this can become a recommendation, this can become a further, how can I put it? Yes, recommendation from the European Commission to the Council so that the member states decide on taking the recommendations from the policy. We, in the next slide, we can see we had a great European Year of Cultural Heritage in 2018. This marked profoundly the work that we do at Cultural Policy in the DG EAC. After the year, one of the first legacies we had was to create the European Framework of Action on Cultural Heritage. This framework had also 5 key thematic pillars. You will see it's again the same priorities: inclusiveness, sustainability, resilience, innovation, and international cooperation. This framework ran for 4 years in parallel to the work plan for program, with 65 specific actions. You might know the European Heritage Label, the European Heritage Awards, and I put there in yellow because I'm going to explain you a little bit more in detail one of the specific actions and how it can relate to you. So, cultural heritage in action. I will come back to this example after the next slide, please, in which I also wanted to briefly mention the second big legacy of the European Year of Cultural Heritage, which was the creation of the European Commission's Cultural Heritage Expert Group, an informal group of experts that still meets twice a year, that includes not only cultural and cultural heritage organizations and the member states authorities, but also international organizations and relevant stakeholders. The themes that the group of experts deal with, they decide themselves, but normally it follows the framework of action on cultural heritage. Okay, yes, also this group is very important for the Commission because it's a platform in which we can exchange information on cultural heritage policy. So let me get into the detail of the cultural heritage in action example in the next slide. Cultural heritage in action was one of the European framework of action in cultural heritage that lasted until last year. It went on for 3 years, a consortium of partners in which Eurocities was in lead, financed by our Creative Europe program, and it consisted on a peer learning program. What was the principles that guided this initiative were topics as participatory governance, adaptive reuse of buildings, quality of interventions on cultural heritage, recovery and resilience, local sustainable development through cultural heritage, and new roles for local and regional authorities. In the next slide, we can see that the main objective was to empower the cities that participated for stronger cultural heritage policies and also to find together innovative solutions. It built a huge learning community, and the outputs that are still available in the website include a great catalog of 60 good practices. In these good practices, 15 of them were peer learning visits organized by a city that had deployed some innovative solution to a common challenge, and other cities were invited to come and understand really deeply what were the specific challenges, what went well, what didn't go well, and how to implement, how to transform these solutions to apply them in their own local administration or city or region. This was very, very successful, and not only for the participants, but from our side, the quality and the quantity of the contacts, of the contents was extremely useful. And if I refer to this example, which is already ended, is because it will have a kind of a follow-up that it's coming this year. This time it will be centered on high quality architecture, but please consult all our links when we share the slides, because in the next weeks it will be announced that the new peer learning initiative under Creative Europe will be out. And yes, please follow that because it's very interesting. Whether you are a local or regional authority, whether you work in the urban aspects of the city, if you are an expert for your community on cultural heritage, on architecture, etc., it's a great program that we very happy to recommend. So let's change a little bit the subject to talk about what are the real opportunities. Yes, thank you for the slide. It was the good timing. What are the opportunities that exist also at regional level? Of course, I won't go into the macro regional strategies. I just want to say that there's so much to be found at cohesion funds and policies for culture and creativity. If you go to the next slide, I will concentrate, as you can see today, in two examples that to me might be of relevance for you. Yes, next slide. Which is the Urban Agenda for the European Union and the European Urban Initiative. So let's start with the Urban Agenda. The Urban Agenda, it's a working method, multi-level, mixing urban policy and practices and promoting the cooperation in member states. The three pillars are the search for a better regulation so that the implementation of policies, legislation and instruments is more effective. The second is a better funding. So how to improve traditional and innovative sources of funding. And the third, better knowledge by exchanging best practices and knowledge. The Urban Agenda for the EU has a great instrument in the form of the partnerships, thematic partnerships. So they help different levels of government and stakeholders and authorities, etc., to debate together on specific themes and very, very specific actions. So, for example, the cultural heritage partnership that is about to end was concentrating on key issues. Like, for example, one of the actions was how to deal with the touristic flows in cultural heritage sites, how to use the new technologies to maybe orientate these touristic flows in other directions, how to, for example, suggest less known sites or even destinations. So very, very specific actions that were put in place at a different level of players and stakeholders in the form of, again, recommendations that reach us as the needs coming from the sector. So there's, from this year, from end of last year, 2 new partnerships, one on the theme of sustainable tourism that is going to take a follow-up of some of the actions from the Culture and Cultural Heritage Partnership, and also one on greening cities. I mentioned these partnerships because even if they are established now with official partners, it's possible to join them, to be there, to be part of a network, of a community, to bring your needs and opinions to the group, and of course to take from there a lot of very useful information. Networking would be the key word for today's presentation. Networking. So if we go to the next slide, the other example I wanted to tell you about from the regional opportunities. It's again urban, but there's also rural opportunities, etc. So the urban agenda for the European Urban Initiative, it's like a hub. It's a support office, let's say, that has two very different strands. One on capacity building. It supports cities to improve capacity in designing sustainable urban development strategies, policies, and projects. The three key activities are city-to-city exchanges, peer reviews, capacity building events. But the second one, which was already mentioned by Maria when she was talking about the new European Bauhaus, is that it also provides funding for innovative actions that are defined as participative, measurable, transferable, and scalable. So different projects apply to these calls. They can get 5 million euros per action for a 3.5 years of implementation. And we had the first call that ended in at the end of 2022, which was the one Maria mentioned, which had a focus on the new European Bauhaus. In 2 days, the results for the 10 to 12 innovative actions selected will be known. And again, here in yellow, because I want to call your attention, the second call just opened. It's going to be open until October 5th. And there is more money, 120 million euros, for, again, innovative actions that tackle three defined themes: greening cities, sustainable tourism, and also harnessing the talent in shrinking cities. The results will be known next year. Do not hesitate to follow the seminars that are taking place in several European cities, but also online. And you have all the information you need in the link below. This, again, would be a great opportunity to work in networks, to create a community which has similar innovative actions that can be presented to the call. There's a lot of money there, so big opportunity. Oh, sorry, I was already in the next slide. Now I'm seeing that. Okay. What I just said about the capacity building funding for innovative actions and the open call, you can see in this slide. And I will try to wrap up with some comments on the sources of finance for all of that. So if we go to the next slide, for the cultural and creative sectors, we tend to think mainly about our own funding program, which is Creative Europe. Creative Europe have seen an increase, a huge increase in the money available for all the actions, the culture, the audiovisual, and the cross-sectorial actions. But as you can see here, just like small drops, so many different EU programs for the period 21-27 have huge budgets that have the possibility to fund, to finance culture, creativity, cultural heritage, etc. So as it was also mentioned before, the new Cluster 2 from Horizon Europe has over 2 billion euros for research on the topics, in which one of them is the European Bauhaus, as Maria said. The cohesion funds, now that the programming is over, we know that at least 5 billion euros are planned for direct contribution to culture, cultural heritage, and tourism in 19 member states. Also, almost $500 million of EU planned contributions for Interreg programs. Apart from that, there's also indirect contribution that we cannot measure, but all support to digitization, to energy efficiency of buildings, etc., can also count as support to the sector. Erasmus Plus, do not hesitate to go and search for opportunities in Erasmus Plus, because it's the best conditions you can have in terms of not having to put that much money from your side in advance. And last mention to something that's maybe less known, but the Recovery and Resilience Facility has also established above 10 billion euros in direct support to the cultural and creative sector industries, which is 2% of the total Recovery and Resilience Facility. Again, here, a lot of indirect measures which have a wider focus, like green construction, digitization, just like we said for the cohesion funds. This will also benefit the sector, even if we cannot manage to account it. After all this information, next slide, please. The question is, how do I find all of that? So many opportunities and so difficult. There's so much in there. So this is why we created recently this fantastic tool, which is the Culture EU Funding Guide. What's great about this is that it's an online guide and a handbook. The handbook has tons of examples and best practices that can be similar to what you're looking for as an inspiration. But the online guide, it's extremely simple to use, only 3 clicks, and you filter which is your sector, what's your status, am I an NGO, am I an artist, am I a local authority, whatever. And then what am I looking for? What are my needs? What do I want to finance? So this tool is available for you in all official languages of the European Union, and it has all the funding opportunities, I repeat, available in all the EU programs for the 21-27 period. Very soon, it will also include the audiovisual and news media funding guide, which is in another DG, but we will put it all together. Very briefly, I want to mention, because this is for the official European Union funding opportunities in our programs, but there's more. So I suggest also you have a look at the next slide, please. This website called Creatives Unite emerged after the COVID crisis. The European Union, the Commission, gave support to the sector to create this platform in which they were exchanging opportunities. After some developments, this year they have created new tools within the Creatives Unite website. The first one, very funny, so you need money, gives you opportunities which are beyond the EU official funds, so private opportunities and opportunities from the sector looking for other partners, etc. The second tool is My Intellectual Property, which gives support for artists and creators on how to maintain their rights. And the third one is a mobility search tool, because there's a lot of mobility opportunities, not only from the EU programs, but everywhere in Europe. So very rich, very important website for you to have a look and eventually to participate. It's open for everyone in the sector to put opportunities for the others. I will end with a last slide, which is just a brief mention that of course, we look at the official sources of finance, but not only. And we created this document after a workshop on alternative sources of finance, concretely for the cultural heritage. This report, you can find it online, it's free, and it gives also very nice best practices, examples, etc., on how to fund your cultural heritage site or renovation or restoration, preservation via public-private partnerships, revolving funds, lottery in some countries, crowdfunding, etc. So other alternative sources of finance for the cultural heritage. With this, which is a lot of information, I know, I will end the presentation with the last slide just to thank you for the opportunity. And not only am available for questions now, but also, of course, you can come back to us with questions later on.
Thank you very much, Marta, for this informative presentation. It's really reassuring to hear that culture matters on the EU level, and there's such a great pool of opportunities for networking, funding, and so many initiatives going on. It's great to hear that. And the networking, the key message that you mentioned. I will now take questions if there are any. So please submit them. I don't see any questions. So if not, just one comment to your presentation, Maria, just on the side, because you mentioned that culture is mainstreamed through EU initiatives, programs, documents. You didn't go into macro-regional strategies, and I just wanted to add that there are 4 macro-regional strategies, one of them being EU strategy for the Baltic Sea region, which we are representing now, myself and Francisca as key implementers. Oh, sorry, and also Karina, who is with us. And there is indeed, culture is mainstreamed in this macro-regional strategy by being one of the policy area, one of the 14 policy areas. But there's also Danube strategy, which has like pillars, and there is this culture and tourism pillar. So indeed, culture is mainstreamed in, well, on EU level, which, as I said, is very reassuring. With that, I will move on to Francisca's presentation, my colleague, who will tell you what the USBCR is, what PA culture is, and what we are doing. Thank you once again, Marta.
Yeah, and I will need the moderation rights to share my presentation.
You should have it now, Francisca. Could you check, please, if it works?
No. It says the host has deactivated the sharing of the screen for visitors.
Please. And now? I see you.
Now I have it. Thank you.
Okay, no problem.
All right. So I hope you can see my screen now.
Yes,
All
we
right.
do.
Then just a short introduction of us, the other way around as it was planned. And for everyone who doesn't know us, yeah, something about us and what we do. We are the policy area culture of the European strategy of the Baltic Sea region. And we are, that means mainly the policy area coordination. And we're coordinated, we have a co-coordination between Adam Mickiewicz Institute in Poland, which is represented by Magdalena, my colleague, and the Ministry of European Affairs in Schleswig-Holstein, Germany, which is represented by me and Karina, my colleague you just saw. And we are supported by Ars Baltica as an informal partner in all things regarding communication activities. Yeah, our actions are mainly structured by the actions that are set down in the action plan of the USBSR, which are for once strengthening to strengthen the competitiveness of the culture and creative industries in the BSR. And we do this, for example, by practical support through projects, through the analyzation of framework conditions, through policy recommendations, or the promotion of entrepreneurial skills. So this also means that we are to encourage creative entrepreneurship by what we do. The second thing we are concentrating on are the cultural values of the Baltic Sea region. That means that we are to present and promote them, and also to use them or to encourage the use of the values as innovation drivers and to foster the cultural exchange and cooperation. And the second pillar, which was already discussed today, would be the cultural heritage. And this is also a crossover topic to tourism, because we are to foster the innovative and visitor-friendly presentations and also to facilitate the management of the region's cultural heritage and to promote public interest and access to the assets of cultural heritage. So these are the three things we are concentrating on by default, but we do a lot of other things to engage cultural actors in the Baltic Sea region, and we are always ready to support cultural actors from the region in their cross-regional activities. Other things we do are, for example, organizing keynote speakers to push ideation processes. For example, yes, last year in January, we had Simon Anholt with us, who gave a keynote speech on the international reputation of the Baltic Sea region, on prospects, challenges, and good practices. And he was there to kick off a brainstorming workshop for the future of the aviation in the Baltic Sea region. We also have thematic roundtables sometimes. This one was at the annual forum last year, focusing on cultural relations in turbulent times, with a professor from the US and with a participant from, or a speaker from Ukraine. And this was focusing on the questions what culture can do in the international relations. And what we also have, or had and will have in the future, are information sessions on funding opportunities for cultural actors in the region, concentrating for once on regional funding opportunities such as Interreg, but also for the bigger funding opportunities like Creative Europe, which span the whole EU region. And these are or this is something that's upcoming, the Baltic Creative Pitch. We something more in detail over it. We are organizing this for the actors, or for the people who handed in applications in the last Interreg call. And we start off with a session together to discuss how the application went, on what a successful application depends, and how to use the support that you get. And just as an example, some projects that we have in our policy area, one core project is, for example, arts on prescription. And the idea there is that people with a diagnosed mental condition, or those of risk of developing one, get a prescription for taking part in regular art activities in group settings. And the project is concentrating on how to institutionalize this possibilities to get art therapy on prescription, on how to place it in the institutional frameworks of the countries. And a totally different project is BSG Go, which concentrates on transferring resilient methods and tools from the gaming industry for young creative entrepreneurs to grow even in time of a crisis. So this is concentrating on entrepreneurship and cultural industries in the gaming industry. And we also have one more core project. This is Cultural Pulse. And the idea of this project is once again something totally different, to make smaller cities and regions increase their social resilience with local assets in an innovative way, and to increase the engagement of civil society and build social cohesion through connectedness and shared values. So it's basically building up resilience through cultural actions in smaller and medium-sized municipalities around the Baltic Sea region. And a small project we also have concentrates on the resilience of museums in the Baltic Sea region, and they are creating a toolbox for museums to get more resilient after the experience the museums had during the COVID pandemic. And if you're interested in more news and more information on culture in the or cultural cooperation in the Baltic Sea region, you can always visit our website and subscribe to our newsletter on our website that we have a link in the presentation. And you can also follow us on social media. We have Twitter, we have Instagram, Facebook, and also LinkedIn. And another interesting thing could be the USBSR newsletter. If you haven't already subscribed to it, there are always interesting news on everything around the Baltic Sea region and also from the other policy areas. And one more thing to add would be that we are exploring new formats like this webinar here, but we also will look for more possibilities to present information on funding possibilities, and also for possibilities to engage more stakeholders and encourage networking in the cultural sphere of the Baltic Sea region, for example, with thematic roundtables. That's it from me on policy area culture. Are there any questions?
Thank you. Thank you very much, Franziska. I don't see any questions. I just hope that people who didn't know us up to now feel invited to contact us regarding our events, our activity projects. We will be informing about the coming events. The first one is the Baltic Sea Creative Pitch. Next one will be annual forum in Riga, where we will also be present. And I will also recommend to look at the CCI Contact Desk website. Okay, and now I think we have a question from Karina. Yes, Karina.
No, thank you, Magdalena. Just a short comment or question, maybe better. I don't know if you mentioned it or I missed it. Will these presentations from today will they be shared or will they be put on the website, or how will we distribute the information to the participants?
We will be our speakers will send us the presentations. We already have them. We will just need to discuss how to distribute them. I suppose participants will get them by email, but this is to be confirmed, of course. They will be made available anyway. And also the recording will, as I've already mentioned, the recording will be available on our website. If there are no more questions, I just wanted to add one thing, because I don't know, it was mentioned. There's the program Culture Moves Europe for individual mobility program, which we also recommend for you to explore. And I hope you already have many, you got a lot of information which you can explore as artists, professionals, representatives of authorities. So we encourage you to do so after this webinar. Yes, and we are running out of time. It's 1 p.m., the scheduled time for ending the meeting. Thank you for your participation. And if you have any questions, please do contact us. Thank you to my colleagues. Thank you to Paulina for supporting us, for the technical support, and hope to see you during our next meetings. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.